Hello folks, I hope that you're having just a great day today. Today I'm going to take another look at this short story collection of H.P. Lovecraft's favorite weird tales. I've already looked at one story for you, The Night Wire, which I did last Sunday. And today I'm going to take a look at another story that I just read out of the story for a second time. I wanted to bring to your attention, and that is Arthur J. Burks' Bells of Oceana. Now, this story appeared in Weird Tales in 1927, but before I get started with the story, I want to remind, this is the first time I've reviewed something by Arthur J. Burks. So who was Arthur J. Burks? Well, he was one of the most prolific writers during the Pulp Era. He wrote hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of short stories during the Pulp Era. He actually wrote more than 1 million words a year during his most prolific output, and he wrote tons and tons of different genres too. From boxing pulps in the sports genres to aviation pulps, which were also really popular during the time. There were a lot of pulp magazines that were dedicated to aviation stories and also to boxing stories too. So it was a big genre of the pulps. He wrote adventures, he wrote science fiction, he wrote horror, he wrote a lot of different pulps and a lot of different things. He was originally a Marine. He was a Marine in World War I, and he would be stationed in the Dominican Republic in the early 1920s, where he learned a lot of that sort of superstitious stuff that he really enjoyed, and he started being drawn to that and started writing for that. He'd retire from the Marines in 1927 to focus on writing as a full-time career, and his output is prodigious. When you think of one of the most prodigious writers during the Pulp Era, you think of Arthur J. Burks. And we'll be taking a look at Bells of Oceana. Now, as a reminder, this collection, I'll link you to it in the comments below in case you're interested in checking it out on some place like Amazon, is a collection of all of the short stories that H.P. Lovecraft loved. And the idea is if he was going to create a collection of the best horror short stories that were ever written, what short stories would be in this collection? And he often would write to fans about, these are my favorite stories, these are the ones I would put in a field. Sometimes he'd actually write columns for Weird Tales for them to publish of his favorite short stories. And some of his favorites were actually republished in the early 30s in Weird Tales as sort of retrospective 10-year anniversary stories. So this story, Bells of Oceana, was published in 1927. It was one of the stories that H.P. Lovecraft selected from his backlog of catalogs as one of the 5 best short stories in the sort of weird horror genre that Weird Tales had ever published. That's how highly H.P. Lovecraft rated this story. So let's take a look at Bells of Oceana, which I'm going to be giving an 8 out of 10 to. It's very strong. I think that there are a couple of things that there's a couple of things it's going to do early on that I think telegraph the end a little bit. So I'm not super fan of it. I'm not 10 out of 10 like Lovecraft is, but it's strong. It's well written, and you can tell that the writer who's writing this, good old Arthur Burks, is somebody that's very, very strong as a writer and very gifted as a writer. You can see why he was so prodigious during the Pulp Era. So I definitely enjoyed it. But let's kind of get started. So the story itself is going to open up on a ship in the Pacific Ocean, and they are off the normal sort of trading ports and trading lines. It's a troop ship from an American military troop ship that is sending troops abroad. Our starting person is going to be an officer who has just entered his cabin, and after entering his cabin, he starts to feel a little weird, like somebody has just been in his cabin or visited his cabin, and he has that sort of a sensation. He searches around, doesn't find anything, but the sensation continues. Feels like there might be something out the porthole, so he investigates the porthole, and just to make sure that nobody crawled into his room from outside, because he has the only key to his room. So if somebody was in his room, they would have come from outside from the porthole. So he goes out the porthole, checks, sees something, a couple of things that are a little weird. Still has that sort of sensation of somebody being near, but he's not sure what to put that on. And then as he's coming back around, he gets a knock on his door. One of the officers on deck has done their tour of the deck, and one of the officers that was on watch has gone missing. And he's searched the entire ship, and something has gone missing from the ship proper. So they start to investigate it. They see these footprints that are done by naked feet rather than booted feet that the soldiers wear. So who has these human-like footprints in the same place? So they follow the footprints and they go off the boat itself into the water proper. And that's about 3 or 4 pages into the story. It's about 15 pages long. So I'll go ahead and leave it to you there. What are the footprints? What happened to the soldier? What's happening to the crew? So I'll kind of leave it to you there. But it's a fun story. It's a lot of fun things that are happening. It's well written. It's well detailed. It's well fleshed out. There are a lot of interesting things that are happening. I probably took 25 minutes last night to reread it for the second time while I was taking a bath in the bathtub. But I did enjoy it. Bells of Oceana. And again, this is a short story that H.P. Lovecraft loves. And so I wanted to make sure you brought to your attention, as well as the collection in case you want to check it out. And you can read some of the stories in there that H.P. Lovecraft thinks are some of the best. I'll also try to do a search for it online. Because Arthur J. Burks was so well known, it's very possible that I might be able to find the story online for you. You know, stories that are written in 1927s in the Pulp Era almost 100 years ago tend to not be in copyright anymore. So I'll do a search for it. If I can find you a free copy online for you to read it and kind of get your feet wet, I'll do that too, although no promises. But I know I'll be able to link you to this collection of H.P. Lovecraft's favorite weird tales for you too. So there you go. Have you read Bells of Horror? I'm sorry, Bells of Oceana. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? I would be happy to engage you with it further in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button because there's going to be so many more of these to follow. And finally, hey, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and watching my videos. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.